the sun.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. All right, let's get it going. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go! Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It is 10 p.m. Thursday evening, and we are here live on Studio A. Yeah, you've waited all week for the most cutting-edge topics and guests, and now it is time to deliver. That's right, it's the Stephen D. Kelley Show with your host, Stephen D. Kelley.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the show. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. I am the host, Stephen D. Kelley. It is Sunday, not Thursday. It is September 20th. Ooh, almost September 23rd. Ooh. I got to tell you something, though. It's 104 degrees. It was 104 degrees here in Southern California. It's going to start to cool off, but it's been unbearably warm. It's still warm now. The air conditioner's running. The bird is, Grace is not in her cage, and cage is not covered. I didn't feel like, she was starting to pick her feathers a little bit, and I thought, uh-oh, going to give her a little, so if you hear bird noise, it's because I care more about the bird right now than I do about her interrupting the show. So, sorry about that. But the point I was trying to make is that weather report says that tomorrow we're looking at severe thunderstorms here in eastern part of Los Angeles and elsewhere, and which is really crazy because, here it is September, of course, and it's, extremely hot, and then it's going to get wet, and then we're going to have a temperature change, and then it's going to get extremely hot again. This is what we call earthquake weather. And when it gets really warm, when you have the surface of the earth or the plates, the crust, getting warm, getting cold, getting wet, things happen, things crack, things stretch, things contract, and things expand. And this is what causes earthquakes. So, right on, perfect timing. Watch what's going on, and if you live out in this area, if you're not put some water, I certainly have. I've only got 155 gallons roughly stashed away, which is really nothing. But oh well, it's better than nothing, I suppose. But anyway, just want to throw that out there. Tonight's show is going to be about Russia and Syria, and obviously this is a hot topic because we did get a significant response to the ad that was run on the Facebook page for the Revolution Radio Facebook page. And I should mention, because I know all of you that do follow the ads and are on my Facebook page, and of course join my Facebook page, I'll say that again very soon, but you'll know that tonight we had scheduled Orly Weinstein. I think it was Weinstein. Darn it. See, there I do. I probably got her name wrong. But anyway, Orly was referred to me, or I was referred to her via our friend Konstantin Sheglikov, and he was helping her out. But bottom line is she was a Israeli television actress, very famous television personality over there in Israel. And apparently she had gotten romantically involved with one of Muammar Gaddafi's sons, not the one that's going to get executed here soon, but another one that's stuck in Libya nonetheless. Anyway, because of that, and because the fact that she was talking out in favor of the Palestinian causes and things like that, she became very unpopular real quick, and things started to go south for her. And she's now in Brazil and was looking for help. And apparently that was the big idea. Winderman, thank you, Terry, Orly Winderman, and that was. It's funny because I just saw this in the side of my little Skype box. Anyway, but she. It didn't work out. she apparently she's quite the prima donna, and you can expect. Constantine referred to her. She said it was the. What was it? He said it was the supermodel mentality, and it's true. Yeah. Well, I guess when you're celebrated like that, you get a little bit of a ego, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, it didn't work out. Obviously, if anybody knows me, they know that you're not going to get too far with that with me. And she made a lot of demands on the show and started talking about backing out of the show because she didn't like the vibe and this and that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't want to subject anybody to that. But needless to say, we changed the show, or I changed the show over to this theme, the Russia in Syria, which of course I think is extremely newsworthy and something we need to talk about. And we posted a little meme for it on Friday, and immediately got several thousand hits really quick. It's only been up, like I said, we posted on Friday, and here it is Sunday late early evening, and it's already up to 4,000 something hits on the little ad, which is pretty darn good. So again, I like to think that this is popular. I will certainly get into a in-depth discussion about the Russia and Syria. We've actually obviously had a lot of experience with our friends in Syria, and obviously I want to give you a little update on what's going on via Mahmoud. Basically, last time I talked to Mahmoud was a few days ago. I didn't really have the opportunity to try to get him involved in this show tonight, but it's not really necessary because I don't think that those guys really are too up to date with the things that are going on with Russia and the events happening in Europe. I know that when I had posted a story about the Germans siding with the Russians in their decision to go to war with ISIS, that even Dr. Rima was taken by surprise. So, so we sometimes we learn about these things before they do, but we'll get into that. Of course, I want to say that this is Revolution Radio that you're listening to, that you've tuned into, and of course, our station is www.freedomslips.com, and we are on Studio A. And if there's another studio playing, Studio B, I'm not sure who's opposite me, but anyway, I want to thank you for listening to me right now. Obviously, Revolution Radio is 100% listener supported, which means that we do need your donations. So if you can help us out, send what you can. I know there are some special people who are the ones that do the bulk of the support, but if everyone just put in a little something once in a while, I'm sure it would help out and make a big difference. Okay, so that said, also Revolution Radio, our Facebook page does seem to be growing at a steady rate. Obviously the ads that I place have been consistently getting well over 1,000 hits. Even ads that don't do well get over 1,000 hits, and certainly getting through 4,000 hits on my ad is getting pretty common. And I suspect that that's a good thing for the show, of course, that more people are listening and more people are excited about the message and looking forward to the programming. But it also shows that more people are joining the Facebook page. And I noticed that it seems like every week we pick up, 20, 30 people or a little bit more than that, which is great. And I'd like to see that continue. And if possible, I'd like to see that expand, of course. So if you haven't done it yet, please go like our Facebook page. Again, it's easy enough to find. Just go to Facebook and do a search for Revolution Radio. Should be the only one that pops up. You'll see it. You'll have my ads all over the place. That'll be a good clue. Anyway, but do that, please. Go like that page. Also, and now I'm going to talk about me a little bit. My Facebook page still has room for about 400 people, and of course, I have people like it all the time, or not like it, but join it. But I'd like to get that thing filled up. There is the Stephen D. Kelley Show fan page, which I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to, and I should probably promote a little bit more. but the personal page is really where all the effort is. But if you haven't liked the fan page, go like it. Also, as you may not have noticed, I am running for president, and I'm serious about that, and I'm going to talk about that briefly before I get into the gist of the program. But there is a Stephen D. Kelley for President 2016 Facebook page. Please go like that and share it. Help me out. And of course, the main reason for doing that is to get the program, or not the program, but the platform in front of people. And I'll tell you, the more crappy things that happen, the more it seems like this platform is just right on. And I got to tell you, it's the more I see these Trumps and what have you, the crazy things these people say, the more logical it seems that what I'm doing. So I'd like you to help out. I want to mention also, and this isn't something I normally do, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway, just because it occurred to me before the show that it might not hurt to say something. But one of our colleagues, in the truth industry, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be kind here, that I'm sure you all know and have heard of, is Alex Jones. And Alex Jones, of course, has a program, InfoWars, which is very popular and is very high in the ratings as far as the type of media that we're considered alternative media. Naturally, Revolution Radio, of course, is superior to Alex Jones because we do not have any sort of corporate or, well, I'd like to think that we don't have any CIA, NSA attachments, but as near as I can tell, we're free of all that. Anyway, Alex Jones did this thing. Somebody had pointed out to me the other day, he did a money bomb. I guess that was what it was called. And I had heard about this thing a little while back, but apparently it hadn't even been out there for that long, and he had raised something like $1 million in this little money bomb, which I assume is through donations of his listeners. And I'm assuming that this is on top of and not connected to the money he gets from selling his little snake oil elixirs and what have you that they sell in that program. Anyway, the word has come out now that these funds are going to pay for his. Thank you, Rhonda. Anyway, this was going to pay for his divorce. I'm like, oh my God. And I thought, gee, and again, I don't normally get into this, but it just blows me away how somebody like that, who certainly is bellicose and certainly has a loud voice and can get out there and say certain things, and at the same time, what you really got to look for is what he doesn't say. But and again, I'm all for having a better message, but the thing is, it's this $1 million. I mean, come on, folks. I asked for people to help me out, and I want to thank the people who have helped me out recently, because I don't ask that often, but when I do, 2 or 3 people will come through and shoot me a few bucks here and there. It's not a lot, but it's the thought that counts. But anyway, the point is, it's like, come on, Alex Jones raised $1 million in like less than a month. So it's going to essentially go to his ex-wife, or his soon-to-be ex-wife. And I thought, wow, if I had that money, I mean, if I could do that, let's say I did that on my show. I know there's like 250,000 people listening. Could be more. Could be a lot more. But on average, about 250,000 people listen. We don't like to say how many people, but that's a guesstimate. That's kind of like an average. All right. And of course, these are English-speaking people, not necessarily in the United States, but scattered all over the place. And but still, I know we're all poor and all that, and I'm all about service to others, and it's not really about the money. But at the same time, could you imagine if I had that $1 million, I actually would be able to have a real life presidential campaign. I actually might be able to give these guys a run for their money. And I'll tell you something that I'm famous for, and this isn't bragging, but when I was running my company, my SK Industries company, which was a laser company, I had a buddy who was a CPA. He was a guy, he was one of these guys that made about $8,000 a month as a CPA, and he made a comment about my company, SK Industries, which I thought was very observant. And he essentially said that it's not easy running an R&D company on a shoestring. And that's what I was doing. I was running this this massive R&D, and it wasn't massive, of course. It was a tiny R&D company, but it was developing technology and pushing technology and making an impact on that field in the world. And certainly, my product was the best in the world. The product that I made was actually the best in the world, and I'm sure it still is. But point being is, I did this with on a shoestring. I mean, I'm not saying chicken wire and bubble gum, but the point is I took $3,000 off of a credit card from my Discover card, way back when. I don't know when it was, 1980 something or other, and I turned that into a company that produced hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and and lasted for. Well, SK Industries lasted a good 22 years, I believe it was, something like that. I suppose I could have kept it going, but, what the heck. I'm doing this now. But anyway, bottom line is, that's what I'm talking about. If you know what you're doing, you could take a relatively small amount of money and you could do great things. So, yes, obviously, if the Stephen D. Kelley for President King is going to go anywhere, certainly it will take a little bit of money. And that doesn't mean to go out and spend it on a bunch of commercials, but to grease the wheels here and there, get out, do what needs to be done, have an event, create some propaganda, do some mailers, that kind of a thing. We could actually do something, and you never know. Could attract some serious coin. So anyway, again, once again, I'm going to put it out there. I hope I've motivated somebody, but my PayPal again is Stephen Kelley 714@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to contact me and communicate with me, I like to think you guys write that stuff down, but let me just say it again. Stephen Kelley, StevenKelley 714@gmail.com. That's just for the PayPal. That's not to communicate. If you want to communicate with me, the best thing to do is connect to me on Facebook or communicate with me via email. My actual email is law17gun@aol.com. And of course, law17gun, that is way back old email from when I was in the laser business. But law17gun at AOL is how you communicate, and Stephen Kelley 714@gmail.com is how you donate. So anyway, help me out, Stephen D. Kelley for President. Go to the page, like the Stephen D. Kelley for President page, and share it. And let's get on with the show. Oh yes, and of course, help Revolution Radio. All right, now, if you're a first-time caller or a first-time listener, I certainly want to thank you for being here tonight. And I hope I haven't disappointed you with my slow start. I see I've already spent 17 minutes talking about this stuff. I did say that I was going to give you a quick update on what's going on with our friends in Syria. I did talk to Mahmoud a little while ago. He seemed pretty happy. He did indicate that it looked like the flour trucks were coming in and that they were actually baking bread, and they were going to lift the siege and allow his city, Qudsaya, to have everything back to normal. It's funny because I did, I used the Google Maps, and all of you should, because I feel that if you actually look at these places, these maps, you see these cities on the ground. Grace, shush. That you get a connection. It's kind of like in Reiki, we like to see the picture of the person we're working on. All right. And sorry, I had to squirt some water at Grace here. I thought she might be getting noisy. But point is, I could see Qudsaya just a little on the outskirts to the west of Damascus, little northwest of Damascus. And then there's this other little city, I think it was called, I can't remember, but just a little bit northwest of that. And apparently that was where the trouble was coming. So apparently they were closing it up and stopping some of the trouble from spreading to the other town. But one of the things that he did say to me was that one of the prerequisites or the conditions of the siege being lifted on his town, and remember, he had told me that their town only had something like 40 armed individuals, and that this is what was causing all the problems. Well, then he told me that there was about 25 groups of men, individuals, that were essentially turning themselves in to the military. This was the part of the conditions with these fighters had to turn themselves in and give up, ask for amnesty. And each of these groups contained roughly 50 individuals, which is essentially, what is that? That's almost a brigade or a battalion or whatever, but the brigade. But the thing is that that's not 40 people. That turns out to be a lot of people. Now, obviously, if according to him, if you look at these people, a lot of them are just residents of the various cities and what have you that were upset with the government for this reason or that reason, and decided that the solution was to get a hold of an AK-47 and join some other like-minded individuals with AK-47s and fight against the government. Now, certainly there is a possibility that their motives were righteous, and we're not going to try to address that tonight because my job isn't really to defend Assad or to debate the crimes of Assad and why these people decide to become FSA or Nusra or whatever in the first place. But what's important is that large numbers of these individuals have decided to go to these checkpoints and turn in their weapons and go through the process of the amnesty. Now, obviously, a lot of these people are just, townsfolk that are going to go back to whatever it was that they're doing before, hopefully, and that'll be the end of it. Whereas others, of course, have been involved in combat and have committed crimes and what have you. And these people are going to be segregated probably and sent someplace else. I'd like to think that it's whatever happens is going to be reasonable. Because it would appear that these people are willingly doing this. But this is very illustrative of several things. Grace. Yeah, not only is she not covered, but she's actually outside of her cage, sitting on the open door. So I'm afraid if I squirt her, she might fly across the room. Anyway. There's so many things going on. Obviously the Russia would not be there if they didn't need to be there, and certainly a lot of us could say that it's only natural, and I believe it's only natural that they've got in there, and if anything, on the very, very surface, if we look at it on the very, very surface, we could ask ourselves, we could say that Putin is going into Syria to protect the lives of Christians while Obama is spending money and working hard to support and create groups that are pretending to be Muslim who are cutting the heads off of these very same Christians. So if we look at that right there, you don't really have to think real hard about who's the good guy in this scenario and who's the bad guy. But the thing is that, and I've said this all along, that we created this ISIS. All right. Now, again, the civil war now has been going on for something like 4 years, whatever, and certainly the outside entities such as the United States, the Gulf states, Israel, and Turkey, et cetera, have done everything they can to manipulate the discontent and to fund and amplify and exacerbate any problems that might have arose as a result of misbehavior of the Assad government. So this would be the so-called moderates. Now, if we look at the refugees right now that are fleeing, certainly their little child that washed up on the beach that, of course, the Turks took and positioned him in a different spot of sand so that he would be more photographic. And they manipulated that, of course, thinking it was going to be bad on Assad. But the bottom line is that triggered a loosening of the restrictions that allowed for this influx of refugees. Now, Europe, of course, right now is realizing that the refugee crisis or the influx of this large amount of Muslim population is indeed actually a strategic maneuver on the part of the forces that are responsible for the darkness to actually pollute. And I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with the Muslims, but I'm suggesting that a lot of the people that are going into these countries right now are doing so with the concept that they are going to raise havoc, rape the women, find weapons, and carry on a jihad in those capitals. And that's exactly why they're being sent in for. I think that what you really have to do here, and is that you have to look at the real source of the problem here, and it's going to lead back into Israel. Now, of course, I'll just say this. I saw a meme today, and I think this works really well explaining, because there's a lot of finger pointing, and if we do this, it will help us to look at the big picture a little bit better. But in the meme, it said that the boss of ISIS was this Bakhtar guy, whatever his name is, the Mossad agent pretending to be a Muslim. And then his boss, of course, is Saudi Arabia. And then Saudi Arabia's boss is the United States. And then the United States' boss is Israel. And then Israel's boss is the Rothschilds. And I think this really sums it up very well. Now, again, if we look at what's going on with the Syria and Russia and even Ukraine, we have to look at the big picture, and that is the same thing that we've discussed here on previous shows. That this is not so much an Israeli issue or a terrorist issue or a Muslim issue or a Jewish issue or a Christian issue, as much as this is a Khazarian issue. This is a Khazar mafia issue. This is an effort to not only to create a greater Israel, but to regain the Khazarian homeland of the Khazar Empire. And a lot of people out there would like you to believe that the bulk of the Jewish people today, or the people who claim Jewish heritage today, especially those people that rehabited Palestine and called it Israel, those people are of Khazarian Ashkenazi descent. And yes, this is true. A lot of people will tell us that they are not actually Jewish and have no Semitic roots and are not connected to the biblical Holy Land. Well, unfortunately, that is not true. They do have a connection to the biblical Holy Land, because the Khazarian people are indirectly connected to the very same tribe of Israel that was conquered by the Assyrians, who, when they were released and freed by the Persians, instead of returning to Israel like the Judeans did when they were freed by the Persians from Babylon, these guys went north and they became the Khazar Empire. All right, anyway, but so much for the history. But the bottom line is that if you look at the vast conspiracy of everything that's going on, you have to understand that that's really what's going on. These people are trying to take over large portions of Russia. They are trying to take over large portions of the Middle East, and they want to destroy their ancient enemies, which in this case are Europeans and Russians, et cetera, et cetera. So there's massive geopolitical things going on. Now, I said that if you want to really understand what's going on, I recommend everybody take a look at the map. In this case, the Google map, or Google Earth, if you hadn't done it already. Actually, every one of you should have done it, because there's so much to see just looking at the Middle East. My God, if you look at the Google Earth in the Middle East and you zoom into Palestine, you'll see the devastation of Palestine. You'll see the large neighborhoods and large city blocks that have been just bulldozed down to nothing. It's very, very easy to see. And you could also see who's got all the water, too. But anyway, it's very stark. You look at the wall of the Palestinian wall, whatever you want to call that, the Berlin Wall of Israel. You'll see the devastation on one side of the wall and the opulence on the other side of the wall. Anyway, point is that you can also use this to look at Syria. and naturally zoom in on Damascus, visit our friends in Qudsaya, and say hi to Mahmoud. And I did this before all of this happened with the Russians making their move, but I wanted to. Now, of course, the Russians have been in Syria for a long time. They've got a base, a seaport, and it's not much of a seaport, but it's in Tartus. Now, if you look at the map, you'll see that Syria is kind of a long, skinny country. It's about the size of, I don't know, Minnesota or Nevada. It's roughly about that size. It's kind of like one of the larger states, certainly smaller than Texas. But the bottom portion where Damascus is located is relatively close to Israel, and it's down away from the Mediterranean with Jordan and what have you in between it. And then it goes up, the thicker portion of it, the country goes up around the top of Jordan, and it hits the Mediterranean, and then continues up to where the border of Turkey, and then, of course, it goes along the border of Turkey to where it borders Iraq. Now, the thing is if you go up to that section of border that, or not border, but the seacoast where Syria actually touches the Mediterranean, and scan it with your Google Maps, and it's kind of fun going up and down. It looks just like an American city when you see the buildings and what have you. But you take a good look at the port of Tartus. There's another port just south of Tartus. Tartus is actually north. It's closer to Turkey, and the island of Cyprus is not too far, just due west. Anyway, there's another port below Tartus, and I should have had the proper pronunciation in front of me. Somebody can connect. Oh, yeah, that's my producer's job. I think it's Lactica, I believe it is. And there's a seaport there, and there's a seaport up there in Tartus. Now, if you look at the Tartus seaport, it's not a huge bay. It's not like a geographical big bay. It's and again, we're not talking ocean. Obviously, the Mediterranean isn't a big ocean, but it has a breakwater going around the thing, and it has certain facilities for serving ships. It certainly has a container yard. There's big stacks of containers. It's very reminiscent of the port of Long Beach or any major cargo port that you could imagine. Of course, Long Beach is a relatively large. LA or the port of Long Beach is relatively large compared to this, but that gives you an idea. Now, again, as I said, the Russians have been going in and out of there for years and years because that is their only port that they have in the Mediterranean. They have been working on setting up a new one on the island of Cyprus. Of course, the British are on the island of Cyprus, and that's something that they're not too excited about, but that will give them an additional base in the Mediterranean. But like I said, if you go look at this with the map, you're not going to, hiccups, you're not going to see Russian warships parked in there. And if there were there, Google would probably erase it for you. Anyway, you will see cargo ships. Now, if you go down the road, say if you go just due east of the due east of the port, you get on the freeway and you head south a little bit, you're going to run into the airport. And now I believe this particular airport was named after Bashar Assad's older brother who died in a car crash some time ago. So it's such and such Assad International Airport, whatever. It's a relatively large airport, it would appear. It has two runways that run perpendicular, or I should say parallel to the coastline. But it looks pretty beat up, and you look at the surrounding area, and it has it's just like, again, looks like Long Beach International Airport, not too far from LAX or Long Beach Port of Long Beach. It's not really that big of a deal. And then if you continue down south and you go back towards the coast again, there is that other seaport. So in other words, this airport is nestled inland, not too far inland, but just slightly inland, roughly midway between two of these seaports on the Syrian coastline on the Mediterranean. So it's sort of a strategic location. Now, as the Russians have come in, of course, again, they've been there all along, but what they've done differently, and what's really happening, and what people are freaking out about, is that they're starting to beef up the airport. And if you look at it on the satellite, what does that mean? They've taken this sleepy airport, and first thing I was looking to see is if they were lengthening the runways, and it doesn't really look like they're lengthening the runways, but apparently the runways are large enough to accommodate the big Russian Antonov heavy plane, cargo plane, which I believe is capable of carrying one or two main battle tanks. So now what we've heard so far, what's going on is, and I've seen that they haven't lengthened the runway, but what they have done is they've added a taxiway, which is just a little driveway to run off the airport to some different storage area. They've added a lot of portable housing, which apparently they're going to have some troops, and this is going to be their base now. They've added a new control tower, and they've also added pads for helicopters. Now, of course, if you look at the map or the picture of this thing, satellite map, you're going to see that there already were a dozen or so pads set off to the east of the main runway for use by helicopters. And so what have the Russians done? They've added maybe 2 or 3 extras. I don't know, maybe 4. It looks like just a couple. They've increased the helicopter pads by about 20% roughly. It looks like. Woohoo! The other thing that we're hearing is that they've stationed 6 main battle tanks. I believe they're T-90 battle tanks. So no, they're not the state-of-the-art Armada tank that they make now, but they've got these 6 tanks now stationed at these various locations on the airport. And people are like, oh my God, they're going to war. They've got these 6 tanks. Well, come on. First of all, yes, they're going to have a lot more tanks there, but the 6 tanks are there right now. Those are basically providing airport security before they start flying in all kinds of cargo and what have you. They're going to certainly provide a little more security. So this is the thing. A couple things we want to look at here is that they've always been there. The Russians have always been there. A lot of people are saying that oh no, the Reds are moving in. This is the Red Menace. They're moving in. But no, they've always been there. The other thing is that they have the right to protect their interests. They have this port there. Obviously, if Assad was to fall, they would lose this port, and this would be a major blow for their ability to operate their navy in the Mediterranean. Well, not a major blow. But bear in mind, when the Russians' ships leave the port in the Black Sea, they have to pass through Turkey. They have to pass through the what is it? What is that isthmus right there? The Bosphorus? No, not the Bosphorus. But this tiny little passageway outside of Istanbul right there. So Turkey certainly has a lot to say about this. And it also should be noted that when the Russian cargo planes, which are, from what I understand, flying in now to this airport at least twice a day, when they started doing this, before they started doing this, they were asking for permission to use certain airspace. And naturally, the United States was doing everything they could frantically to prevent this from happening. And we're putting pressure on these various countries to have them denied airspace or the ability to fly through this airspace. Greece was the one country that we hear about having been approached about having to deny Russia this passage. But now and then of course we see that Iran naturally has offered to make it to free their airspace so that Russia can certainly fly through the Iranian airspace. But what we're actually seeing happening is that they're flying over Turkey, which should say quite a bit. Okay, because of course Turkey is a member of NATO, a significant member of NATO, and is also a significant player when it comes to the creation of ISIS and the destruction of Syria. So for them to be working with Turkey or working with Vladimir Putin like this and allowing the Russian aircraft to fly over Turkey, this is a big deal that we need to pay attention to. So we don't hear anything in the U.S. media about this. Now, if we look at the U.S. State Department and you look at what's publicly being said, at least with the U.S. State Department, with John Kerry, President Obama, Mr. Obama, and the various neocons. Certainly the neocons have something to say, but not so much at this point as what's actually coming out of the State Department. They're saying things that, such as that Russia's involvement is going to be unproductive, counterproductive, and they're throwing threats out like the United States reserves the right to act accordingly should our proxy forces again, the word forces is key here, be attacked by the Russians. Obviously, the Russians have no fear whatsoever of any kind of ramifications. But what's really happening here, and what's most important here, is that the big lie, and of course, if you listen to me, you know that I've been saying from day one that it's all a big lie, and that of course ISIS is 100% created by the United States and our allies and Rothschild interests. But the point is that all of our song and dance, all of our dog and pony show, our charade, whatever it is that you want to call it, that we've been doing in Syria and Iraq, and this alleged coalition, anti-ISIS forces, and all this nonsense, it's just this incredibly, I have to use the word retarded. No offense to anyone out there with Down syndrome, but it's just so appropriate here. It's just incredibly illogical, nonsensical, and stupid, lacking in any intelligence whatsoever. And the efforts and the machinations and the funny words that are being used by the various different people in the U.S. military and the U.S. State Department and the Obama administration to try to talk their way around the big lie is just painful to watch. I think one of the biggest ones right now that's coming out of, and of course, you got to wonder how much they pay somebody to create these lines, but I think the thing that the Obama administration right now, what they like to say, that I hear repeated so often, is that we're going to degrade the capability of ISIS and ultimately defeat it. We're going to degrade their capability in the hopes of ultimately defeating it. Degrade their capability. Degrade their capability. Okay, obviously this is such nonsense and doublespeak. I mean, here I am on the radio. It seems ridiculous that I could say these things, and yet these people in charge that are running the show here, it really truly is a satanic show at that. But they're saying these really, really stupid things that are just falling apart. Well, again, Putin has been masterful, and I have to give him a lot of credit. It's not just Putin. Obviously, a lot of credit has to go to his secretary of Lavrov, I believe his name is, and he is the John Kerry of Russia. But these men have been very strong and very patient, to say the least, because they've allowed the United States to put its foot in its mouth, to look stupid, to fall on its face. They've allowed us to basically pull our pants down and show the world what we don't have, and this is what's really, really going on. And so the threats of what to do and what not to do, and what's going to happen have been ignored. The Russians, of course, have very steadily, very quietly, very subtly done exactly what they intended to do, and I think that a lot of people out there in the world, certainly people in Syria, are very thankful. Let's look at what they're going to do. They're actually going to destroy these troops. Now, as I've mentioned about all of these so-called moderates and FSAs turning themselves in, if you look at the numbers that turn themselves in just locally in Kudsaya, and you look at the numbers of these so-called moderates that are fleeing as fast as they can in these as imaginary refugees, I think what this goes to show is that these so-called moderates they know what's coming, and they're getting the hell out of Dodge before the Russians show up, because I don't think the Russians are going to be like the United States, who will say, well, this is a moderate, and this is an ISIS, and this is an ISIL, and this is what have you. Of course, these foot soldiers are proxy troops, and something else I should mention, because this is part of the confusion, and certainly there is a group, of course, that has been used and abused in all of these conflicts, and that is the Kurds. Now, without taking sides and suggesting that the Kurds are righteous or not, that they've done this or that, right or wrong, that's not my job at this point. Personally, I think that the Kurds are the direct descendants of the people of Noah's Ark, but that's not here nor there. But like the Armenians, they seem to have been persecuted. Point is that the Kurds have their ambitions and they have their political agendas, and they have been used by the powers that be much the same way that the ISIS and the FSA and the so-called moderates have been used to push forward a Zionist, Khazarian, Rothschild agenda. So I do feel sorry for those guys, but I've seen a lot of people saying that FSA guys are cool because they're just like average dudes that took up weapons to go and fight against Assad, as if that's cool. No, I do not agree that that's cool. All right. Same thing with the Kurds. Yes, I understand that they have been persecuted, and certainly they're righteous in trying to achieve their goals. However, my enemies are my enemies, and my enemies are my friends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And at this point right now, I see Bashar Assad as, right or wrong, righteous or not, I see him as standing up against the great Satan, or the satanic entity, which is the Rothschild-created entity. Enough said there. So I cannot have sympathy for these people. Here in the United States, of course, things are different. We do have a Second Amendment. We do have weapons. It's a little bit different. Yes, people take up weapons, but however, you cannot violently try to overthrow your government. It doesn't work that way, because this is what they want. This is how they control. Violence is the only thing they understand, and violence is only going to get people dead. So, that being said, I do believe that the Russians are certainly having an effect on the morale of these fighters. Another thing is that, of course, Israel now has been bombing Damascus with impunity. They have been bombing areas within the Golan. Obviously, the Golan is a very, very important aspect of this whole fight. For those of you that don't know, there is an area that is Syrian territory that is in the southwest of Syria that was essentially conquered and annexed by Israel during their war way back when with all the other Arab countries. They are calling this area the Golan Heights, and they have been sitting on it for many, many years. There is a contingent of UN personnel, UN peacekeepers that have been based on a tiny sliver between Syria and the Israeli occupied section that have been there for many, many years, supposedly keeping the peace. The problem is that the Golan right now is a major staging area for ISIS, al-Nusra, and the FSA, and all of the various different factions that are fighting against Assad. Not only that, when fighters are injured in the field in the fighting, they head for the Golan, and they are picked up and taken into either field hospitals in the Golan or directly into Israel proper, where they are treated and given surgery and returned to these bases in the Golan. Israel does not want to give up the Golan. They want to take it over. This is one of the reasons why they want Assad to be gone so badly. You've got to understand is that the United States and all of these countries have been trying to get rid of Assad, not because there's anything wrong with Assad, but because they all want his territory for this reason or that reason. But the bottom line is Israel wants him gone because they want the Golan. Now it turns out we see that there is actually oil in the Golan, of course, big surprise. And lo and behold, Israel is actually selling oil drilling rights to foreign countries for area inside occupied Golan Heights. They are actually selling foreign countries the rights to drill oil within a country, within territory of a country that they do not own. And this is incredible that it's outright theft. But if anybody's read the Bible and understands how Israel came to be, they'll understand that these people have been stealing land since the get-go. But either way, they don't want to give that land up. And if you look at who it is that got the rights to mine this oil, and for what I understand, it's Genie Oil, which is owned by none other than Rupert Murdoch. So when you see all of these Fox News and these various different neoconservative rags, such as the ones in London, what have you, screaming for bombing and screaming for war and screaming that Assad must go, you understand this is why they really need Assad gone so that they can build these drills. They can drill for oil in the Golan Heights. Obviously, of course, there's another major reason, and that is that the Gulf states, I believe it's Qatar or Oman or whatever it is, Saudi Arabia, they want to run a big oil pipeline right through Damascus, just straight up through Syria. So this is about theft. It is about pillaging. Oh, a lot more to say about this, but I'm just going to say real quick here. It is about 9 minutes before the top of the hour. And as far as I know, okay, this is the call-in number. And everybody, of course, is welcome to call in. Now, I know this is going to work because I tested it last week. This is actually Keith's number, so write this down, okay? 928, area code 928-202-4608. And if you'd like to call in and join us, please do. We'll certainly start taking calls right after the break. I want to remind everybody again, this is the Stephen D. Kelley Show on Revolution Radio, www.freedomslips.com. Join our Facebook page. Help us out. Send a donation. Help out Stephen D. Kelley for president. Go join my page. Oh, yeah. What was that, Alex? What does Alex say? Money bomb. Money bomb. Jeez. I got to say something, you guys. If I was elected president, I know this is, I'm serious now, but if I was elected president, I wouldn't even need to be paid. Seriously, why does anybody in that office need to be paid to get everything? And when you get out of office, I mean, my God, they build you a library. They practically give you a house anywhere you want, and then you get paid to speak. Travel around. I mean, sure, yeah, I'll travel around and do a few speeches for a few bucks and buy some groceries. So that works. I don't need to get. All right, you know what I'm saying? Seriously, Donald Trump says, "Yeah, I'll do it for free." Yeah, well, that's easy to say. You got $1 billion. I don't have anything, and I'll still do it for free. All right, so there, And when they say Jose, what's his name, was the guy from Paraguay, I believe it was the most humble, world's poorest president. I'll take that job. Yeah, hell, I'll even give away my salary. I'll give it to I'll do it for free. I'll give it to kitty rescue, doggies and kitty rescue. All right, again, the call-in number is 928-202-4608. We're talking about Russia and Syria. We're gonna continue on that subject. I want to talk about the actual Russian troops, the strategy they're going to use, what's going to happen, why they're doing it, and all those sort of things. But again, it is your show. If you guys want to, well, it's my show, but if you guys want to call in and direct it in a different direction, hopefully along the lines of this topic, I'd be happy to have you. Let's see. Keith, are there any questions in chat real quick before I don't see anything?
No questions yet. Somebody was asking if your email 17 was related to Glock 17.
Yes, actually, it is. There is a Law 17 gun. It's LAW stands for laser aimed weapon, and of course the 17 is because of the Glock 17, and the reason is because when this Law 17 laser was developed, the Glock 17 was the only Glock. It was the first Glock that was made was the Glock 17. Obviously, they came up with the Glock 19 later, which was a compact version, and on and on. I give you the whole history of Glock, but yes, the Glock 17, the Law 17 was named after the Glock 17, and that's where the Law 17 gun comes in, and that's AOL. Remember, that's not the PayPal. PayPal's Stephen Kelley, Kelley 714 at gmail.com. And if you want to send me but seriously though, if you want to send me an email and say, yeah, man, I'm a graphic artist, or yeah, man, I'm a political consultant, and you've got me convinced that I want to save the world and I want to help you become president, contact me. Yep. You know what else is funny, Keith? I got to tell you, normally it's not that big of a deal for me to get on other people's shows and what have you, and if I really wanted to, I could put out a thing and I could be on all kinds of different shows. But as soon as I do this running for president thing, I said, okay, I'm running for president. Anybody, I'd like to go on different people's shows and talk about it. Nobody wants to do it. They think, oh, yeah, I'm not going to entertain your ego. Forget that. It's like, it's not. This is not what it's all about. It's not stroking my ego because I think I'm, Crusader Rabbit. I'm going to save the world. This is serious stuff. All right, there's the break. Okay, we'll be back in 5 minutes. And again, 928-202-4608. Call us in after the break. We'll be back in about 5.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
download it to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Wow, I've got 8 o'clock on the hour straight up. That means those commercials were really short. It seemed like it was over quickly. Amazing. Anyway, all right, welcome back to the show. This is Stephen D. Kelley's show. As I said, it's time to call in. Again, the phone number is 928-202-4608. And by calling in, you get to give me a little bit of a break, and so people get to hear somebody else talk. So that's always a fun thing when somebody calls in. Again, 928-202-4608. Somebody's got to call in and make sure that it works. Prove it works. Oh, my audio is low. Oh, sorry. That's what happens when I take my headphone off. I move the microphone away. Sorry, guys. Again, call in at 928-202-4608. At least you can hear me a little bit. I have a little flip-up microphone. Seriously, I need a new microphone. I dropped my nice microphone. I'm working on this headset. This headset is falling apart. I've got it being held together with a little binding wire, and I got Scotch tape holding the battery in. Boy, if this thing breaks, I'm going to be in trouble. Okay, audio good now. Thank you. Anyway. Okay, again, I want to talk a little bit about Russia. I'm going to talk about a little bit of Israel. I'm going to talk about the United States and why this is such a big deal, and all the various different aspects of the different sorts of troops that are going to be fighting, and what's going to happen to the, predict the future for you a little bit. But this, to me, a lot of people have been freaking out, and certainly the media, the Western media, is going to portray this as a very horrible thing. But the bottom line is that as long as the Russians are there, just having Russian personnel inside of Syria makes this all very serious, and it really shuts everything down. Now, the forces that be, from a strategic standpoint, they would like everything to fall down in a nice domino fashion. Certainly they want to go into World War III, but they want to do it in staggered steps, and certainly having Russia inside of Syria is not following the program. Obviously, they want Syria to fall down. They want Iran to fall down. They want all these other various countries to fall down. And then they want to go to war with Russia in a very suicidal World War III, that they actually believe that they're going to somehow win, and that we're going to be able to steal all Russia's gas and rule the world for the rest of the eternity. At least that's what you might call a Rothschild wet dream. But the point is that it can't possibly happen now. It's already too late. The very fact that we were even talking about doing what we're doing with boots on the ground in Russia when there are Russian troops there at all, even in a small presence to protect their interest in the port of Tartus, shows you how arrogant people are here in the United States and elsewhere. But the thing is that Syria has taken possession now of advanced anti-aircraft missiles. I believe they're the SS-300s, and they should possibly be getting even more advanced SS-500s very soon. But the point is that these missiles have been due to show up over there a long time. They have they've been held back. Russia's been holding them back, and they've finally let them go. Obviously, if they were there sooner, they might have been useful in preventing Israel from carrying out their air attacks all over Syria. And certainly they've carried out some significant attacks in Damascus. They may have actually even dropped a low-level nuclear weapon there. It's very highly possible that the Russians or the Israelis actually did nuke Damascus. Now, the thing is that if there are Russian missiles in Syria, and these are being manned by Syrians, and they shoot down a Israeli plane, which they may have already done already, it's reported, or they shoot down an American plane, or they shoot down a British plane, or a Canadian plane, or an Australian plane. Get the message here. It's these little yappy dog UK countries. Then the poop is going to hit the fan, and this is something they want to see happen, and this is certainly something that they've been testing and trying to make happen. Obviously, this is probably why Russia did not give them these weapons sooner, because they knew that this was what happened. Now, if Russia brings these weapons in and there are Russian troops actually there manning these weapons, and they are doing the shooting down because they are shooting down to defend their interests, suddenly that changes everything. Israel, of course, is really good at fighting against third world, poorly prepared countries. The United States, of course, has done the same thing. I mean, we like to think that Saddam Hussein was a modern country, but let me tell you, Iraqi Republican Guard driving Russian T-80 tanks and what have you are not the same as the stock of the Russian troops that defended Stalingrad. Russians are not Iraqis. I think the people in the United States really do have to understand that we're talking about Russians here. These are people that aren't going to go out and start a fight, but if you start a fight with them, they are going to finish the fight, and they don't care how many teeth you knock out, or how bloody they get, or how much you starve them, or how many fingers you cut off, or how many of their children you kill. They will kill you. That's just the way it is. And anybody that thinks that they can tangle with Russia is absolutely insane. Bonaparte, Napoleon learned this. Certainly Genghis Khan learned this. Well, Genghis Khan not so much, but, Hitler, obviously Operation Barbarossa was a horrible, horrible failure. So you just can't do it. So obviously this is a bad, bad move. Now, when these troops went in there, when the Russian troops went in there, and right away Obama started freaking out. The threats weren't necessarily that. First, it was the threats that we're going to have coalition fighters and we're going to try to establish a no-fly zone. Obviously, there's this concept of a no-fly zone is a farce. That was the same thing they did to Libya. It's a big scam to start bombing the country. You can't do that with Russia in there. You can impose a no-fly zone and suggest that with the Russian Air Force and Army is active in the theater that there's even a pretense for even having this no-fly zone. You're going to be directly working against Russia. The other thing is that this no-fly zone would have been along the border with Turkey, and that Turkey obviously is having to allow Russia to fly these aircraft right across their territory. So I have a feeling that Turkey is not going to be very cooperative anymore with the NATO, and they're certainly going to be having to withdraw their efforts because of what's going on with Russia. Another big thing, of course, is Germany. Germany, of course, has been asked to become part of this coalition in Syria. And if you look at all of the negotiations in these areas, certainly Germany was a major partner in the P5+1 nuclear talks with Iran. And of course, Germany is a major player in the EU, and Germany also, of course, has received a large amount of these refugees. So Germany is certainly involved in all of this. But Germany now has basically said that they recognize that Russia should be involved in any coalition, any fight. Of course, when I say should be involved, this is obviously a moot point at this time. Now, what we have is Germany saying that they would actually welcome the opportunity to work with Russia directly in their campaign against ISIS in Syria. So, what does this mean? This is the ramifications are huge. This means that right away that the entire coalition is unraveling and is starting to point fingers and have to distance itself from the United States. So what we're having now is that we're going to have only the United States, Israel, and England. And of course, when I say England, of course you can throw in, like I said, the yappy dogs, that are connected to the Queen. They're certainly going to say anything that the Rothschilds want them to say. But these are the only ones left. The rest of the world certainly wants to fight ISIS. The rest of the world knows that the United States is certainly responsible for ISIS, but we've been very, very, the world has been very, very careful about not actually coming out and condemning, because obviously if we were going to solve the problem, you need to remove the patron of the terrorism. Another point that we should bring up here that's kind of interesting, it's not completely connected, but indirectly, and that is the rhetoric that's coming out of the neocons and the Republicans, the GOP mostly, with the election coming up, and they're talking about Iran and how we've given them all this money, and certainly, the P5 plus deal, the normalization of, somewhat normalization of the relations and the lifting of embargo, of how this is somehow going to affect Iran's ability to export terrorism and all this stuff. And, I see these people, they say how, asking the military and whatnot to try to calculate. I think what it was somebody, I believe it was from probably CNN or some propaganda outlet, was asking John Kerry if he could tell us how many Americans have been killed by Hamas or have been killed as a result of IEDs that were planted in the roads of Iraq or Afghanistan and were created by materials that were generated out of Iran, and all of these things. So basically they're trying to suggest that the Iranians are directly or indirectly responsible for the deaths of many, many soldiers in these particular theaters, and how somehow this makes them a terrorist organization. Now, if you just look at this, let's just examine some of the doublespeak and the nonsense. First of all, the United States basically was part and party to destroying its own building and murdering 3,000 Americans in a false flag operation so that we could go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, ultimately in Syria and Iran, et cetera, et cetera. That makes us the terrorists. We created a terrorist false flag event to generate fear in the American public so that they would go to create terrorist events and subsequently kill 1 million Iraqis and people in Afghanistan, et cetera, et cetera. So we are the terrorists. So where do we get off? Iran works now, again, using words like insurgent to describe people that are defending themselves in these countries like Iraq or Afghanistan and what have you. These are people that live there. The people that are fighting in the Syria against the Assad government, for the most part, these are not the locals. As I said, the locals for the most part are giving up and turning in their weapons, or they're fleeing. The guys that are calling themselves ISIS, these people come from everywhere. They're, Tunisia, Chechnya, Africa, Indonesia, you name it. They're coming from everywhere. They're not from Syria. Very few of them, if any, are from Syria. So it's not the same thing. In other words, the bottom line is that the United States is the largest creator of a terrorist in the world. We are the largest terrorists in the world with what we're doing in our bases and occupying, 183 various different foreign countries. I think we're occupying right now. And it's incredulous for us to say this. And if you really want to speak about the word terrorist, the country of Israel was formed through terrorism. The first government of Israel was staffed by bona fide terrorists who created terrorist events to drive Britain out of Palestine so that they could create their country. It was entirely based on terrorism. And the events and the actions of the PLO and the various different factions that went to war against Israel subsequently, the acts that they did were if anything, similar, but half the time a faint shadow of the terrorist events that took place just to cause the creation of the Israeli state in the land of Palestine. Again, call in number 928-202-4608. Don't be afraid. Remember, there's 200,000 of you out there listening right now. Who's the first one? Okay, get my little throat. I gotta drink some water. Anyway. Okay, somebody call in, make a comment, give me a break. Let me see, what is it? 14 minutes in. All right, we got lots of time. Oh, yeah. Keith says that you can also Skype it if you want, but I think you have to use his Skype, which is Keith AZ. Yeah, I really starting to lose my voice. Normally, I would have a nice big iced tea sitting in front of me, as you all know. But I don't, so I'm drinking some warm Arrowhead water. Anyway, okay. Now, the Russian troops are really not going to have a hard time to going in there, and the thing is that obviously Russia has a space program and they have satellites and they can see what's going on, and Syria for the most part is a big desert. Obviously, there's most of the activity and most of the humans are located within certain urban areas along the river corridors of transportation corridors and rivers and that sort of thing, coastline. But large portions of the country are uninhabited, sparsely inhabited, mostly desert, which is very conducive to air power, being able to patrol the area. And again, we're not the only country that uses drones. Certainly the Russians have been flying drones over Syria, and long before their troops started fanning out, they were actually surveying the entire area with their drones and with their satellites, so they know what's going on where people are. This kind of highlights one of the biggest farces of the so-called American campaign against ISIS, the coalition fight against ISIS. It's such an incredible joke. All they ever do is attack Syrian army positions, and if they ever did attack anything that had anything to do with ISIS, I think it would have been an actual accident. But we've all seen these photographs of these convoys, these ISIS convoys, where they're traveling down the streets in these row after row of Toyotas, essentially. I mean, the bottom line is that, first of all, we bought those Toyotas. I mean, come on. Saudi money, American money, whatever. Somebody got the gig to supply those Toyotas. All right. I mean, we don't do anything if there's no money in it. But the thing is that we can see those things. They're not hard to see. At the end of the Iraq War, or not even the Iraq War, but the war to liberate Kuwait, if you want to call it that, after Saddam had surrendered, the United States decided to wipe out the 400,000 Iraqi troops that were basically leaving Kuwait. They call that the famous road out of Basra incident. I'll never forget it. But this is after the war was actually over. The United States came in with a few fighter jets and A-10 Warthogs and things like that. And they took out 400,000 people, soldiers and vehicles, who had, of course, already surrendered and were retreating. This was like 40 minutes, I think, after the surrender. So, yeah, this was a pretty heinous event. But the point is that it goes to show that a little bit of air power can utterly destroy a convoy of vehicles in the middle of the desert. And why is it that we see convoys of vehicles travel? I mean, come on. We are launching drone strikes on birthday parties in Yemen or weddings to take out one person. And you've got an entire convoy of so-called ISIS traveling in the open. I mean, come on. This is what we call a turkey shoot. Somebody took that picture. You can't tell me that our NSA doesn't know that all these trucks are moving across the desert from this city to that city, and that we can't take them out. I mean, we can't fly a drone over there. We can't drop some Hellfires. We can't send in B-52 to just carpet bomb the entire area and take them all out in one damn mission. It's preposterous. Anyway, bottom line is that the Russians are not going to hold back. They will not have these restraints. Their rules of engagement will certainly be different. I'm sure that the Russians will certainly go out of their way to not take out civilians, but this nonsense about moderates versus ISIS and whatnot, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think that if you are moderate, you're probably going to give up or retreat or go somewhere else or change sides. Hijacker wants to call in. Yeah, I'll take a call from Hijacker. We can always hang up on Hijacker if he gets crazy, but yes, you can go ahead and connect Hijacker. I will welcome him. If anybody else wants to call in, again, it's 928-202-4608. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show, and we are talking about Russia in Syria. So, the other thing about Russia and Syria is that we know that they're trying to create this greater Israel. And in order to do that, they have to take out all these countries. They certainly have to put all these countries in disarray. Obviously, the country of Iraq was very important, because it had 40 million Iraqis. Anytime you've got that many million Arabs so close to a little tiny Israel, it's a big deal. Now, if you look at the maps of the area that is going to basically make up this greater Israel, which is essentially Israel, everything from the Mediterranean to the Nile to the Euphrates, and then a straight line cutting across from, say, Kuwait straight across to the Nile, which goes directly across Saudi Arabia. So they plan to have an area. They would like Israel to basically take over all of Jordan, all of Lebanon, most of Syria, small portions of Iraq, and a good portion of Saudi Arabia, as well as a section of Egypt, and that's the so-called Greater Israel. All right, I believe this is Hijacker. Hijacker, you got to turn off your radio. I'm getting some feedback. Got that score?
Not for me, Stephen.
Right.
My radio's off.
All right, go.
I'm a pro like you.
All right, so what's
nothing.
up? What do you want to say?
So, okay, so here's the deal, Stephen. You and I are pretty much the same age, so this information is just rolled out. It might have been out there a while, but it's gone viral. So this has to do with the old Soviet Union and Ukraine and Chernobyl. So we got this French psychic. They got this old footage of this guy.
You're not talking about Turi, I hope.
I don't know what his French name is. I can't even say it. Okay, so in 1987, this psychic sat down and he laid out a whole bunch of stuff. And this is 1987, Stephen, so you know the time frame. He said the Soviet Union would break up. He says that there would be Soviet bloc nations that would actually join NATO. He says that there was going to be a nuclear accident in the Ukraine, 1987. He actually warned the Ukrainian government. Then he went on to say he predicted a lot of kind of wild stuff. He said that in 1987, a computer was basically as big. Well, you're the technology guy. How big was a computer in 1987, Stephen?
Pretty big.
Yeah, like a refrigerator or something, right?
Yeah.
Right. He said there would be computers after the year 2000 in everybody's home, which would be completely different than the computers that we think of today. This is what he said in 1987. He said you would be able to send mail, like you send mail through...
I know you're going to get to something good here, so get
no, it gets better. He says you're going to actually be able to send photos through these computers. Then he said you're going to have, the United States is going to have a Pearl Harbor. Somebody is going to bomb New York City, and it's going to be a Pearl Harbor event. All this stuff, people can go and check out this French psychic You're going to have to do a little research, click a few buttons, but you can see the actual, and it's the 1987 video quality, so, it kind of dates itself. You can't Photoshop this stuff. So he says there will be a Pearl Harbor, New York City will be bombed, the world will start to change. He goes, and then between 2005 and 2009, there will actually be a black man that will become president of the United States. He will be over the United States.
Cut to the chase now. Come on.
I'm coming.
Years. Get to 2015. Come on.
All right. So then he says that there will be an alien presence that will come on the earth that will not openly invade, but they will nestle in, or they will settle in among the inhabitants of the earth, and they will slowly, gradually get all control of the banking, the political systems, the military systems, and when they have final control, right around 2015, he says, to be precise, the world will be in a lunar eclipse, 2015. It will be, he believes it will be at the end of September 28th, lunar eclipse. At that date, during the lunar eclipse, that this presence that is settled in among, and has basically gotten control of the world systems, they will openly attack. And their attack will be through the personal computers, the computers that you have in your home, which will be more like a type of television set. And then from late September through December, the open attack will happen. It will happen through the computers. It sounds like he's talking about the computers being shut off. And then between the end of September and December, man will fall and become enslaved by this greater creature. So that's why I call it in, Deacon.
That's all you wanted to say? Oh, man. I thought you were going to talk about Russia and Syria. Come on now. Gee.
Oh, no. I can chew this out all day long, but I only call in on important stuff. So this guy, he predicts a black president, a computer, Chernobyl, the breakup of the Soviet Union, personal computers, and a dozen other things. Just check them out.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, thanks for calling in. I'm going to get back on subject here, but thanks for sharing that, and you enjoy the rest of your evening. So, no, I don't think it was Louis Toury. I kind of don't. Louis Toury, we call him the angry astrologer. Oh my God, the guy's a joke. There's so many jokes. I'm sorry, there's just so many jokes out there. I've lost my patience with this industry. There's just so many. I gotta tell you, very few of us in this industry are doing anything like what we're trying to do right now. Fighting for Syria. How many shows have we had where we're trying to educate people about the situation in Syria? Obviously, Vladimir Putin has taken charge, and he's going to make things right. And we're actually basically that's what we're talking about tonight. But the point is that there's lots of hot spots. There's lots of truth that needs to be told. And there's so many of us in alternative media that just don't do it. We're too busy trying to entertain or do something they think is going to get the listeners excited to send in money and what have you. I'm just so tired of it. And the various people who are, it's like a very famous person who's also running for president, who's in this silly media. Who you ask about 9/11, and he starts talking about UFOs. I mean, come on. Nobody's gonna take you seriously if you do that. And you got to remember something that's really, really important here. And this is really key. And I think all of us need to focus on this from now on until things change. And that is, jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. We have 200 million Americans that still believe the big lie. We're talking about right now the big lie of ISIS, which is certainly connected to the big lie of 9/11. which is connected to the big lie of trying to create a greater Israel, which is connected to the big lie of trying to rebirth the Khazarian Empire and all these things. Ultimately, when you get down to it, we're dealing with Satan, and I have no problem saying that, and I'm actually kind of happy to see that more and more world leaders and people in our movement are actually able to say this now. And I'll tell you something, this is one of the things that's so refreshing about Vladimir Putin, was that he has no problem pointing out the fact, and again, this is not a religious thing, but the fact that he's doing everything that he can to defend Christians and essentially his faith, whereas the United States is doing everything it can to support Satanism everywhere you look. And that's really what this is. This is a fight against Satan, and this is what I'm here for. But the thing I'm trying to say is that I want to see more people in alternative media stop trying to chase a buck like Alex Jones and his Truth Bomb alimony campaign, and start trying to do something to actually change the world, like kind of like what we're trying to do here, guys. If I could address what Hijacker was saying here even slightly, unfortunately it didn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about, but yeah, there are certainly a lot of these doomsday predictions and scenarios. I'd like to suggest that one of the things that we're trying to do with like the programming that we're doing here is that we want, things are going to happen. Certainly there's bad things that are going to happen, but the real thing that we're trying to do here is we're trying to celebrate the fact that we're winning. The very fact that the Russians have gone in and done what they're doing in Syria means that Israel cannot take over Syria. It means that they're screwed. The very fact that Germany says that they want to go in there and help the Russians and whatnot means that NATO is going to die. NATO is dying. All these dark forces are dying. Israel is freaking out right now. Netanyahu thinks that he's going to go to Russia, or he's going to go to Moscow, and he's going to have words with Vladimir Putin. What in the hell does Netanyahu think he's going to get out of Vladimir Putin? Oh, yeah, sure. He could go to the United States and he can bitch and he can say, oh, well, gee, if you're going to pass this deal with Iran, you better give me an extra $5 billion or I'm going to pout. Screw that. Vladimir Putin is going to tell him where to go. What's he going to do? He says, what are you going to do? Are you going to nuke me? I mean, come on. I mean, yeah, sure, Israel is very dangerous when it comes to their nuclear weapons, but the thing is that they're nothing. They are nothing. And if Vladimir or Netanyahu thinks that he's going to have any influence whatsoever on whether or not on the movements of the Russian military within Syria, he's got a rude awakening. At the very least, I would like to think that Putin is going to let Netanyahu know that never again will the Israeli aircraft bomb Damascus or bomb anywhere within Syria. That has to stop, and it's going to happen. Now, the Golan Heights and all that, they're going to have to give it up. And then see, this is another thing. What does Netanyahu says? He goes, well, I'll tell you what. We'll. I mean, my God, the claims, the crap that comes out of these people is just insane. What they ask these people to do, they threatened. Saudi Arabia says, okay, you drop Syria, you drop them completely. We'll give you a bunch of oil. We'll invest billions of dollars. I think the same thing happened with Israel. Israel told Russia or something like that. They said that they would give up on their insistence of Assad leaving if they would just be given complete control over the Golan, which shows the real intentions here. As they said, oh well, we'll put up with not overthrowing your legitimate government in your country if you'll accept our theft of your territory and relinquish this stolen territory once and for all, forever. I mean, that's absolutely preposterous that the whole world would even be quiet about this. How can isn't it convenient that we're talking about how horrible Assad is, and yet nobody mentions that Israel has stolen a major portion of Syria and will not give it back, and is doing everything they can to keep from giving it back. And if anything, by positioning UN troops in the border between the two, we are facilitating and enabling this theft. You would think instead of the UN trying to prevent Syria from somehow doing something to recapture this land, you would think that they would address the issue and return the land back to Syria. It's absolutely disgustingly preposterous. So it's really the major lesson here, if you look at any of the stuff that's going on, is that everything that's coming out of the United States is a bunch of crap. Now, and as I mentioned, we have 200 million people that believe 9/11. They believe that steel beams can be melted by burning jet fuel. Okay, and if they don't believe it, if they're suspicious and they're still taking a paycheck to be in the military or to be in law enforcement, to go out and defend these the evil that would do this big lie, then they're part of the problem. But the bottom line is that how are we able to take 200 million Americans who are pretty much stupid? I don't want, brain dead, what do you call it? But if you have 200 million Americans, and I'm sure some of these are children, but think about it, out of 300 whatever million Americans, apparently 2/3 of those people believe the big lie. We hear now that up to 100 million Americans, or 1/3 of the country, thinks that it's time for a coup and think that it's time that we take over. Well, I think that's only natural if you've got 100 million people that know that the government committed a treasonous terrorist act against our very own people, and then proceeded to steal trillions of dollars worth of money to give to a foreign entity or a foreign entity-owned banking system. There we go again. Let's cut to the chase here real quick. End the Fed. Seriously, end the Fed. You want to make all the wars go away? You want to stop the ISIS? You want to stop all the evil? It's really, really simple. End the Fed. Kill the Rothschilds. End the Fed. So simple. This country could be over, but we do have to wake up a whole lot of people. I think again, you see these guys running around, the so-called 3%ers. Okay, the 3%ers, of course, are a group who are being looked upon by the government as terrorists, but they are essentially active duty, retired, or active law enforcement, military law enforcement personnel who believe in the Constitution and who recognize that it only takes 3% of those people to rise up and change things, because, of course, the United States was formed when 3% of the population rose up and overthrew the monarchy. And that just goes to show that we don't need a majority of people in order to do that. And the thing is, of course, is that because of fluoride, because of professional sports and chemtrails and vaccines and GMOs and all of these wonderful things that they do to keep people fat, dumb, and happy, that's the reason why we haven't risen up and revolted. But the thing, though, is that those numbers are going to increase, certainly. One of the things that I have to say is that our best bet for the future of this country is to fix things in our country, because this empire, this American dictatorship, or whatever you want to call it, this Vatican, London, Washington, D.C. trifecta of evil that's running most of the world, yes, it is going to fall. And the thing is that our country doesn't really have to suffer as a result of this. I mean, yes, no matter what you do, there are going to be changes. people look at Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. They go, oh no, this program is going to hurt Wall Street, or that program is going to hurt Wall Street. No kidding, Wall Street's going to get hurt. No kidding, it's all going to get hurt. But so what? You take away the Federal Reserve, you bring back the money, you throw away the debt, you start creating debt-free currency. Things are going to change. There will be money. People are not going to need all this crap that we're buying. Everything's going to change. In the United States, we can't pull ourselves out of this. But the point is that, yeah, sure, there is evil in the world. So I'm not saying the military has to go away completely. But the point is that we need to stop being a bully. We need to stop terrorizing the world. We need to stop being the Israelis' pit bull. And we need to stop fighting all these wars and killing people just to bring money into the coffers of the Rothschilds. And I think we can do this. And if we do make these efforts, I really do believe that we can certainly have world peace. I believe that there's no reason why we have to have World War III with the Russians and the Chinese. And I'm not going to suggest that everything's going to be wonderful and things are never we're never going to have problems again. But the point is that for the most part, I think that we have an advantage right now, and I think that if we become equitable, we can maintain that, and at the same time have a higher standard of living, and not be the greedy bastion of evil that we are today. But so this is not a bad thing. I do think, though, when he starts talking about Armageddon and what have you, that ultimately I think that Damascus is in trouble, and if that is going to come because of a attack on Damascus, that is certainly possible. And the other thing is that yes, these are very, very dangerous times, and any of these things is certainly possible. When you look at that airfield that we mentioned earlier that the Russians are moving into, like I said, it's very, very close to the water. There's no huge defenses. There's no great body. There's no great ocean protecting it. So in other words, what the Russians are really doing by setting up these positions is they're setting up a tripwire. They're drawing a line in the sand. Yes, they are going to actually go in there and physically start removing this ISIS, and they're going to do what needs to be done. And obviously what needs to be done is the United States needs to admit that we did it, and we need to stop it, And then as far as our, the whole idea of the United States being involved in a coalition to fight ISIS is an utter damn joke. And it's an insult to everybody in the rest of the world, because we created ISIS. Where do we get off saying who should be part of this coalition to fight ISIS? It's the biggest insulting amount of arrogance that we could possibly have, and this is what it really boils down to: is that this arrogance, this chutzpah that we've been exhibiting, it's going to go away. And certainly the rest of the world, just because they are not calling us on it, does not mean that they are not aware of it. And the very fact that you see all these world leaders even trying to pay lip service to this concept of ISIS being anything other than a complete fabrication of the CIA shows that there's still some fear. But I think that fear is going away, and I think that Vladimir Putin is calling the bluff. And I think that Israel and the United States are going to they're going to have to flinch, and they're going to have to back down. Now, whether or not Israel tries to do something stupid and launch a preemptive strike, this is a possibility. And we've actually had, to be honest with you, and this is kind of scary, but there are people in the Pentagon right now who are being tasked with having to deal with this situation, who are looking at this as a situation to actually use nuclear weapons, suggesting that our only way of countering Russia at this point, and this is actually true, is to launch a nuclear first strike, which obviously makes us the epitome of evil in the eyes of the entire world. And at the same time, the very fact that we have our defense establishment publicly saying that our entire future is dependent on whether or not we launch a first strike on Russia, that would tend to suggest that Russia it would behoove Russia to do the same thing to us before we get the chance. So, incredibly dangerous times. Again, the Russians do have the new missile technology that they are starting to share. The SS-300s, the SS-500s. Yes, they are able to take out most aircraft threats, but they are also able to defend them from ICBMs and things like this, I believe. So, we have you look at America, of course, has set up the so-called Iron Dome in Israel, and then, of course, we have our Patriot systems. So these new systems that the Russians are installing are probably closer to Patriot on steroids, and it would certainly cause some fear in NATO, cause fear in the ISIS, certainly Israel and the United States, but pretty bad times. All right, we got 15 minutes till the end of the show. Again, the call-in number is 928-202-4608. I'm a little disappointed that Hijacker didn't have something to say a little more connected to what we're talking about. I suppose, in a way, this end-time philosophies, whatever, is connected to this. But I'm going to suggest that this is a good thing. I mean, to be honest with you, I really think that Russia being in there is probably the best thing that could possibly happen. I mean, my God, obviously the United States is not going to admit that we created ISIS, and you're not going to convince me that we didn't. And this people getting their heads cut off for no reason, this crap has got to stop. And I think that Russia is incredibly intelligent for doing this, because obviously these very same scumbags are threatening to do the same thing inside of Russia. They've had their own problems with, if you look at Chechnya, Georgia, Azerbaijan, those whole areas. These are all areas which are infected and are historically belonging to the Khazar Empire. So you can only see where this is going to lead. So by Russia going into Syria, this is not only does it. You got to remember that this battle is not just Syria. It's also in Europe, and it's also in the Ukraine. So by them going into taking out these soldiers in Syria, this is going to go a long way to protecting their other countries in Kurdistan and Georgia and all these other areas that have significant Muslim populations. So this is a big deal. Very, very, very good deal. All right. What's the deal here? We can't get any calls. What do I need to do? Offer tarot card readings? 928-202. Should I do tarot card readings? I could do a tarot card reading just for the darn Syria. No, that's scary, huh? Pull a card for Syria? Oh, gosh. I should, huh? People do stuff like that, though. Do I want to predict the future on this show real time? I don't know, Keith. What do you think? Should I pull out the cards and see what the future holds for Syria?
You got me interested.
Yeah, you like that idea?
Absolutely.
Okay, now I got to find my cards. Where did I put them? Oh, there they are. I hadn't thought about doing this, but I just realized it's like, we always think of worst case scenario and what card could come up, but just for fun, let's see what comes up. Might be something cool. This is definitely an aspect. Ooh, I see flight. I see Air Force, air power. Okay, I see definitely air power. That would yep, okay. That must be the troops coming in. There's Putin, King of Wands. Okay, I'm going to call that Putin. There we go. Okay, cut the deck a few times. Let's see if we come up with something good here. Okay, here we go. Let's see. What do we got here? The Hierophant. Well, that's a good one, but that's kind of a Justice Putin thing. Anyway, we did not get a Tower or a Death card, so that's good. I'd say this is a good omen. Darn it, we can't get a caller, huh? Well, I guess I'm just going to have to remind people that Steve D. Kelley for president. Oh, yeah, let me see. Okay, in lieu of a commercial, let's see. Okay, what does he call it? A money bomb. Uh-oh. Dog's dreaming. Money Bomb for Stephen Kelley for president. Money Bomb. Stephen Kelley 714 at gmail.com. All right. I don't know what I'm going to do next week for a show, but maybe somebody good will come in between now and then. Obviously, if that doesn't work out, I'll change my mind at the last minute, like we did for this show here. I do want to say that if you tuned in tonight, and again, if this is your first time tuning in, that I do appreciate you very much. And I know there are quite a few people who are regular listeners. To all the guys out there in Selkirk, hey. Let's see, who else? Oh, you all know who you are anyway. Hi, everybody. But and I apologize if this was disappointing that, the Orly, if you're looking forward to the Orly show, but again, that didn't work out. But I'd like to think that this was important also. I really want to try to, every time I do something like this, I want to leave people with something positive. And I guess the main thing I would have to suggest here tonight is that, of course, our theme is about, it's about war. And people say, well, I don't want to see more killing. But the thing is that these guys have been cutting off the heads and running amok and causing this refugee crisis and disrupting entire population of this country. I mean, my God, half the population of this entire country has fled as a result of this stuff, and we're all responsible for that. So what's happening with the Russians going in there and trying to put a stop to that? I think this is just wonderful. I think this is great news for our friends there in Syria. I hope that I mean, my God, I hope this stuff really works out, because I was thinking about it the other night, how fun would it be to actually go there one of these days and go meet Mahmoud or Gabby or Dr. Rima? Wouldn't that be something? Post pictures on Facebook? That would really be something. And you think, yeah, sure, they're friends just because they're people on Facebook that we're trying to help them and whatnot. But I don't think there's anything illegitimate or insincere about the way we feel about these people who are relatively strangers to us, that have become known to us because of their hardship. And if it was not, if there was no war in Syria, if there was no fear that the United States would start a bombing campaign, we would have never met these people, right? I would have never had my show, and we would have never met them. But it's too late now. We know them. We care about them. We're worried about them. And we're going to be pissed off as hell if something happens to these people. So this is a big deal. We can't change that. And it's history. And I think it's a dream. I'd like to hope that it's a good dream. But I really do look forward to the day when I can get on a plane and actually travel these places and not worry about Patriot Act or anything else. Wouldn't that be something? So anyway, Stephen Kelley for president. Make it real. All right. Okay. I'll save the world. Yeah. You and me together. It's not make America great again. It's like, come on, we're not going to make America is great. We're just going to get rid of the crap that poisoned America. Remove the poison that's making America less great than it was. Oh, who's trying to talk to me now? Who was that? Keith, that's not you, right?
No, I didn't hear anything. I was on mute.
Okay. Must have been somebody on Facebook trying to talk to me. Anyway. Oh, is it Jer Bear's birthday? Happy birthday, Jer Bear. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's Jer Bear's birthday. Okay. Wow. I don't know if that's what... Yeah, people try to talk to me. Uh-oh, Jer Bear's calling. Jer Bear, you can't call me. You got to call Keith. My God. Shall I sing Happy Birthday, Jer Bear?
Sure.
You going to join me?
No. I guess I will.
You're a singer, not me. Okay, let's not do it. That's too embarrassing. I'm sorry. So one of these days, though, I tell you what, I'll make a deal, you guys. You elect me president, I will sing for you, okay? Is that fair? I'll sing for you then. Only then. On my inauguration. That's a promise. Okay? There? You like that? You like that, Keith? And you can play backup, Keith.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, there's Jer Bear.
I called him, so we'll see.
You called him? All right. Well, we all know. All right, happy birthday, Jer Bear.
It's not my birthday.
Well, what the hell is this? Your Facebook. Your
Constantine,
Skype says.
your our buddy Constantine from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Hang on, I got.
What does that Constantine one have to say?
He wrote to me today, and it said, "Jared, will you go over and damn, I can't shut that off. Hang on, sorry, bro. Constantine wanted me to pre-proof some articles that he had, and I just texted him into you, Stephen Kelley's.
Okay.
I was giving you some news for just what you're talking about.
I see. Okay.
That's what I'm coming out.
Okay, it's okay.
All right, Ramaderchi.
All right. See you later. So I'm glad I didn't sing Happy Birthday now. My God, that was terrible.
Do you see what I texted in you, bro? That's all I have one more article if you got time to. Well,
no, I got time to read anything right now. I can't really read and do a show, but I appreciate the effort. But next time. Anyway, Jer Bear.
Bye.
I'll let you go. See you later. All right. Well, we're almost done anyway. It's about 5 minutes before the end of the hour, and I think we'll probably be hearing music in a couple of minutes. Jer Bear, what are you doing back here? Jeez, I swear. Okay. Again. Revolution Radio, of course, is 100% listener supported. Please go to our site support button, which is the blue button on the left side of our main page at www.freedomslips.com. It's the one that says donate. Go there and do whatever you can to help us out. I have no idea what where we are in our budget this month, but obviously we can always use more than we got. Join our Facebook page. Join my Facebook page. Go like the Stephen D. Kelley for President Facebook page. Help me out if you can. What is that again? Money bomb. Yeah. Stephen Kelley for President. If you have any ideas for how you can help me become president, write me an email at law17gun@aol.com. And if you have ideas for shows, or if you've got somebody that you think I really, really, really got to have on the next program, go ahead and write to me also. And we love feedback. Anyway, that's the end of the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for putting up with me and being patient. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the listeners. Thank you, Revolution Radio. Good night. Adios. God bless.
Listening to Revolution Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm. And get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.